My upgrades are Invincible, Chapter 38, Fan Fiction, by Azazyel. A series of tapping rang out between two goddesses. Kusanali with her green eyes met Freya's purple eyes as they shared a moment of silence, as their adventurers had given the two goddesses some space so they could speak in private. So, any words as to what I had requested? Freya spoke gently, and Kusanali hummed in thought while she stirred some sugar into her tea. Freya, with unusual patience, waited for her friend, who loved their tea, and once the green-eyed, silver-haired goddess drank some tea, she began speaking. Hera's Empress, Albion Weststock, registered Duchess of the Elven Lands. She was a tricky one to find the weaknesses you desired. Kusanali spoke, and Freya smiled at the confirmation that Kusanali had actually gotten something indeed. Without any fanfare, Kusanali began to speak and list out what could be considered weaknesses of the captain of the Hera Familia and one of the strongest adventurers in the world. Albion is, as you well know, a woman of nobility in almost all things, all of which she does outside of adventuring is kept strictly behind closed doors. Now, as for weaknesses and things in which you could apply pressure. Kusanali took a breath and continued. The Elvish king back in Deep Wood is deeply worried that Albion may seek to usurp his rule, and that is a reason why Riveria was forbidden from joining the Hera Familia, as she, being his heir, cannot be put into a subordinate position to a duchess. Kusanali spoke, and already Freya could see it. Using her charm or other methods to start a civil war in the Elvish lands and using her own high-level elves, she could further inflame the battles to draw out the Empress from Orario should her lands be attacked. If the Empress left Orario and the Hera Familia to become the queen of the elves, Freya wouldn't bother her in the slightest. She just wanted Hera's strongest supporter taken out from under her, by blood being spilled or a silver tongue. It made no difference to her. Kusanali coughed, and Freya raised an eyebrow as Kusanali continued with a slightly discomfort expression. As for her major weakness. Remember, some 20 years ago, after she reached level 9 and she went on that 5-year-long vacation? Kusanali asked, and Freya nodded. Indeed. I considered making moves during that period. But at that point, none of my adventurers were even level 5, so no such actions could be taken. Freya said, nodding in agreement. There was a moment of tension, and Freya couldn't help but raise an eyebrow as Kusanali was obviously playing with her. To make her ever more curious as to what had happened and would become Albion's so-called true weakness. So with an eye roll, Freya herself took a drink of tea to let the goddess of life and knowledge get her kick in making her desperate for the knowledge she held. But Kusanali seemed to have purposefully waited for Freya to take a drink, as the moment the goddess of beauty brought the drink to her lips, Kusanali announced. The Empress has an illegitimate child with the Elvish king after a meeting in which they tried to soothe tensions but other forces spiked their soma wine with aphrodisiacs. Now both the queen of the elves and the king's other consorts also want Albion and the daughter born of that union dead, as that child with the help of Albion and the backing of the Hera Familia could easily take over as a new royal bloodline. Freya pushed hard the instinctive choke on her tea at hearing Kusanali's words, and unbidden, she couldn't help but wonder who in the world was the child of Albion. Was she in the Hera Familia already? Did Albion hide her child remotely or even in another familia? Freya pondered as she stared at her friend. She realized what that smug smile Kusanali wore meant. You little cheat. You already know who and where she is, don't you? Freya said with a frown as Kusanali giggled and then gave Freya a cold smile. Indeed, I do. I couldn't let you make the girl disappear after all. No, she is too valuable with her latent potential born of the Alf bloodline and Albion's talent, which had reached level 9, and it is clear that Albion's fauna is sublimating Hera's divinity within herself to make her into a new goddess. Kusanali said with a wide smile that made Freya grimace at the thought of a mini Hera running around. But regardless, she is indeed already a member of my own familia after I coincidentally picked her up while visiting one of the nearby towns down near Melon, where the secondary dungeon entrance is. Freya eyed her friend silently for a long moment as she considered if Kusanali had overstepped and whether she should get revenge. And after a long thought, she snorted and leaned back into her chair, as she knew all too well, that unless she was willing to pay dearly to have Kusanali sent back to Tenkai, she couldn't make an enemy out of the mind reader who could tell all her many rival familias the paths her adventurers would be using during an expedition, so they could be easily ambushed. Very well. The information you have given me will prove to be of good use. And Zeus's Familia Crush event on the crafting familias are planned to begin soon. So I will make sure that Jake survives the event, and does not suffer too much. Freya promised while mentally hoping that the level 7s of the Zeus Familia didn't get involved with the crackdown that was going to happen.